Good afternoon. So I'm happy to talk about Hampton Products and how we came to a decision that we needed a PIM, how we chose Perfion, and then the last 7 years of how we've walked the road to implement it. I was promised this would be an interactive session, so I don't have a PowerPoint. Rob mocked one up for me, and you can show that if you want to. Or I can go through kind of the points that we agreed on, and then if please interrupt me with questions at any time. I guess you have to type them in chat, and then maybe Eunice could bring them up. But I would welcome that, because this is where actually things happen. And I know that Rob and Tom, you guys make things actually happen. But I'm the customer, and I had to identify the need, sell this to the company, implement it, and make it successful. And if you're in that same boat, then I'm really happy to share our experience with you. I'm all about paying it forward and being open and sharing as much as I possibly can so that others could benefit from our successes and mistakes. Hampton Products is a consumer packaged goods wholesale distributor. We make and distribute very boring things made out of metal to big box retailers like Lowe's and Home Depot and Walmart and Ace Hardware. We import those here in the Port of LA, and we have a distribution center in Orange County, and then go out from there. And so for about 35 years, Hampton Products has grown up in the space where we sell cases and pallets of things. And so our margin and our expertise and our success is really based on efficiency. And how do we make a penny off of a case pack of something that we're shipping to the big box retailers? If any of you are in that space, you know that's a tough space to be in, because manufacturing overseas, there's fraught with issues and costs, and there's very, very hard to get a cost increase there. And then, of course, you'll never get a price increase with any of the big box guys. So we're always trying to find ways to be faster and better and cheaper. And every time we touch and move something, it costs us money. Now, about 7 years ago, we thought we needed a PIM because we thought we were going to be in the e-commerce business, and we wish that we were today. We do have a couple of our own e-commerce websites, buyhampton.com, or what is the other one? Is brinksppr.com. So go there and buy stuff. But the reality is that we support our customers' e-commerce needs. And so, they're all very different. It would be nice if you could just put it in one place and syndicate it out, and it would just flow. But no, they're all very different, and they all take information differently and in different ways. And so there's that issue. But to take it back to why we thought we needed a PIM, is we thought we'd be supporting our own e-commerce websites. And if you sat in any of our engineering or marketing or sales meetings, you would find that we'd spend a lot of time trying to decide who has the current specs, who's got the most current packaging, who knows where it's made, who knows what, the factory, who knows the costs. And we solved a lot of our reporting issues years before by implementing a business information tool. And we all sort of realized that we needed the same thing for product information. Nearly every department in our company has either input, and most of them also have output needs from our PIM. And so we decided that to be more efficient and effective, we would need a product information management tool. And so, as many things do, it became an IT project, and it should have been a business project. And so we used in IT to push things out to the business involved in the decision making. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with IT in projects like this. And so we went to work researching the options. Who is out there and what do they look like? What do they cost? Now, again, cost is an issue because our margins are thin. So we were looking around for a cost-effective tool that we could support, that we could implement, that we believed could grow with us. Also in the in the SMB space where we live, relationships are important, and making sure that your vendors and your partners share similar values to yours. You know, I don't have a big enough staff that I can have experts in everything, and so you have to trust. You have to trust your partners and your vendors, and so we're looking for a combination of the best tool at the best price with the best relationship that we felt we could grow into. And so we came across Perfion, and they didn't have a huge presence in the US at the time. We believed that their commitment to growing their product and supporting their product was true. And so we bet the farm on Perfion. And also my tech team made me confident that the underpinnings and the back end, they really gave me good reviews on how the database was organized, how their API was arranged, and we really felt that we could support it, we could implement it quickly, and that we wouldn't have to keep going back for support. We wouldn't have to hire extra expertise that we didn't have. And so we jumped on with Perfion, and we had several big implementation meetings. You know, we got the whole company together, and the president stood up front and said, "We're going to do this, and it's going to be amazing." And we had a whole marketing plan that I put together to try and implement Perfion. And we had, you know, image of an elephant, and how do you eat an elephant? And one bite at a time, and these little gray elephants everybody brought to the meetings. And 7 years later, we are still implementing Perfion, but we have had some significant wins along the way. Did it turn out exactly as we thought it would? No. We did implement the thing in about 2 weeks. We began using it right away. And we had a lot of successes. In fact, just this last week, we had an all hands meeting because Ace Hardware has a new program, and we sell several thousand SKUs to Ace, and we have to provide a refreshed, updated information through a template that we have to fulfill and send off to them. And so we had an all hands meeting, and it was really encouraging in that meeting that more than one key contributor early in the meeting jumped on and said, "This all has to come from Perfion." It was really, really nice. And so I can tell you that that our path to success has been real. We have had lots of great success with Perfion. It was the right tool at the right time. But I could talk for hours about how I think someone could do a better job of implementing it and getting adoption in their company. Our company has lots and I mean, I've been here 22 years, and there's a lot of people that have been here longer than I have. We've all sort of grown up at Hampton, and we've all have our ways of doing things. And it's really, really hard to get people to change, especially when someone thinks their success is based on how they manage, maintain, and keep and deliver information. So when you're talking about taking that away and putting it in a central place where anybody can get it at any time, a lot of people think that's wonderful, and a lot of people worry about their position. And so we combated that. We still combat that, but we no longer have hours and hours of, well, where does the information live, and who knows the most current, because it's all it's all in Perfion. We do still focus on supporting our customers' e-commerce, and that's grown tremendously over the years. We have lots of Amazon and Best Buy and Home Depot and Lowe's and Ace Hardware and many, many others that we support in that area. Also, all of our trade shows have gone virtual, and so everybody needs support for their trade shows. So websites and catalogs. We're really finding that being able to produce a catalog on the fly that is most up to date immediately, without a whole lot of the creative team or the marketing team having to touch versions, is really nice. So we're getting a lot of value out of that. And so that's kind of the introduction to who is Hampton and what we did. Are there any questions coming in, or should I just continue on my rants and ravings?
No questions yet. I think that the setup is here, and folks will be ready to ask when you get to the meat and potatoes. And I'll kick it off probably, which is you know, what made you choose Perfion as the right solution, and then and of course, how did you sell it to the management team? Are always questions everyone's going to be interested in.
Sure. So there's two levels, right? We agreed that Hampton needed a single source of truth. We needed to, and that was not a hard to sell at all. It was easy to point out, and then everybody agreed that there wasn't one place in the company to go to get the most information, the most up-to-date information about the product that you're discussing. And so it was easy to point out some of the inefficiencies. Oh man, we just placed an order with the wrong packaging, or it took us 3 days to get this PO filled because we had to go to several different places to get the information. And I would point that out as often as I possibly could, and rally for, hey, there's a thing called PIM that we really should have. And you can liken it to, you know, a BI tool. You can liken it to a digital asset management tool. You can make those connections, and the rest of the executives get it. We can talk about we have, you know, fewer meetings, fewer mistakes, fewer opportunities for the wrong stuff to arrive at QA, because we can get ahead of it all. And so that was not a hard sell. And then tasked with, hey, go find the right tool. And that is also not hard. Just pick Perfion and you're done. But you know, there's always, well, what's the cost, and what's the support, and what's the cost of ownership, and do we have the right people to support it? And Perfion makes it easy. The back end is simple. It's easy to manage. The support is there. The cost, it was the lower cost, easy to implement solution. And it has definitely grown and been supported over the years. And so we looked at, I honestly couldn't tell you the others that we looked at. There's been a lot of water under that bridge. But we did look at, I think, at least 4, maybe 5, and it became clear early on that that Perfion, just based on their responsiveness to the sales cycle, based on the cost of it. You know, we did a couple of proof of concepts. We did maybe one. We looked at it under the hood. We priced it out. We got a feel for the support. We talked to 4 or 5 reference sites, all of whom are still on Perfion, even longer than we have been in the States. And it was confirmed all along the way many times that their culture, their core values, their product, their commitment to excellence and support and to growing the tool was there. And so that's why we selected Perfion. And I would do it all again the same today.
Well, that's a ringing endorsement.
Who else would do 2.5 hours for your partner?
That's right. That's absolutely right. So, well, that's great. And actually, Brian, we do have 2 questions that popped up, and that is, would you describe, you know, some of the business benefit that you got? Can you quantify it? And then, what did you not anticipate in terms of the implementation? How did that work?
Sure. Well, you know, ROI is harder to, at least for me. I hate math, and I'm a very touchy-feely, subjective kind of person. That's why me and the CFO get along so well. But to calculate the return on investment, I can tell you that just the efficiency of not wasting time in searching around, and everyone would agree. I haven't put the pencil to paper and come up with a number, but oh man, the price was right. The implementation was easy, and the benefits of if you feed this thing, it will serve you. It will serve you well, and that's probably the biggest thing that I didn't anticipate was how many different people have to feed it. And so as we went through the implementation, we discovered that there are individuals in every single department in the company that are responsible to feed this beast and to make sure that the information is that they have to be dedicated and committed to putting the information in Perfion in a timely basis and maintaining it there. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is to get all of those different personalities on board. Some people adopt quickly, and some people it takes a little bit longer. This may be an answer to a question that would come up later, but I used every strong arm opportunity I had to drive people into Perfion, because we knew it was the right answer. And so one example is that in my IT department that I manage, I've got a team that is responsible for EDI, and that EDI team also is the team that updates a thing called the GSX, or I can't remember what they call it now, GS1. They've changed their name, but it's the online repository of data that a lot of the big box retailers subscribe to. And so if a sales guy makes a sale of a new item, Lowe's, Home Depot, Ace Hardware would say, okay, you got to publish that item in the online database so that they can then subscribe to it and then place the purchase order. It's not e-commerce, but it's EDI. E-commerce is a whole different beast. And so my EDI department handled publishing items to that online depository. And I made the first thing I did was made a rule that said if the data is not in Perfion, we will not publish it. And so we make our living out of being quick and responsive and efficient, and people didn't see it immediately as us being responsive. But now everybody sees the benefit of, okay, they don't come to us anymore until the information's fully in Perfion. My EDI guy would have to go to 4, 5, 6 different people and say, you know, I can't publish it because I'm missing this information. Someone's on vacation, or someone's at a sales meeting. And so 2 or 3 days go by, and some other sales guy is saying, well, I need this published. And I'm saying, well, but the guy that has information isn't there. And so it really helps support getting everything into Perfion in a timely way. And so people are thinking today about Perfion first, and that drives everything else in the right way. And so does that answer the question, or did I take a rabbit trail?
I think it does, but let me come at it a different way, actually.
Sure.
So you said that it takes 2 weeks.
I lost you.
It took you 2 weeks to set it up, but I suspect it took longer than 2 weeks to get all that information and all of that together. How long was that process before, you know, you got, if you will, broke it into phases? Maybe it's phase 1, and, you know, how long to get it usable?
Oh, well, I mean, I can say it was usable within a couple of weeks. I mean, the structure was there. It's just a matter of feeding it, right? And so we discovered over the last 7 years, oh, hey, we should have HTS codes in Perfion. Okay, that's a new one. So let's add those fields. Oh, wait a minute, there's more than one HTS code for an item? It's possible. The Prop 65, so in California, we deal with the whole lead thing. And so our items subjected to Prop 65, we're always finding new things to add to Perfion. Images that support the catalogs that we produce. Like I said, when tariffs became, well, you know, 3 or 4 years ago, 3 years ago or so, when we really got hit with the tariffs, that was a whole new. We were always handling things, but the new responsibility around tariffs meant auditing everything in a much deeper way, and so making sure that your correct tariff codes are all there. So we're always finding new things to add and new ways to use Perfion, even though we're in the middle of upgrading our ERP, and we're going from Dynamics AX 2009 to D365. The questions always comes up, well, you can do all that in Dynamics, why not? And that's not the case. So we continue to invest. When I say invest, we continue to add to Perfion the features, the fields, the things that we think would be helpful. My new baby granddaughter is visiting, and that's why you hear the dogs anytime somebody comes to the door. Sorry about that.
No worries. That's an exciting thing. So that's interesting.
You're cutting out, right?
You mentioned several things: Prop 65, tariffs. So it seems like this is an evergreen process. But I'm surprised to have heard you say, in some cases, Perfion is a better place to keep it than the ERP. Why is that in your opinion?
Well, an ERP is transactional, right? An ERP is really built to handle transactions, and Perfion is built to handle information, product information, and you can access it in a lot of different ways. So having the two things are integrated to some extent, but there's a lot of data in Perfion that does not need to be in your transactional database. And Perfion's API makes it so much easier to feed your websites, to download and fill out forms that you need. So and having the two, I mean, I have a couple of guys that are dedicated to supporting ERP. There's no way I want to saddle those guys with all the requests for views and access and feeding websites. So it's different expertise. It's a different developer need. Although they're all the developers in the same team and they work together, but keeping those two things separate yet connected is much more efficient because they serve two different purposes. I'm not keeping margin data or sales transaction data in Perfion, and also I'm not keeping in-use photos or marketing bullet points in ERP.
Yeah, that's a great question. A great point. By the way, you said APIs from Perfion out to the websites and that marketing side. What is the connection between Perfion and your ERP like?
Oh, sure. So it works. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. We have we're currently on AX 2009, and for the last 3 years we've been working towards a D3FO implementation that we've been doing in-house on our own, which should come to fruition, gosh, in about 6 months. But in Perfion, you have a lot of different choices. In this case today, for us, we display key information in Perfion that Perfion users would need, but that Perfion users wouldn't necessarily want. We wouldn't want them to go into AX to get. So we can show pricing, we can show inventory information. We can just display it in Perfion. So if you have a view and you want to go into Perfion and look at specs on an item, you can have fields that appear there that are served up by ERP for view only. And that is nice because then I don't have to go to two places, and I don't have to give access to ERP to staff that don't really need that kind of access. You can also do one or two-way integration if you want. There are fields in Perfion that are fed by AX. So certain groups maintain information in AX, and that data gets synced down into Perfion. You can go the other way if you wish to. We don't today. I think in the future we probably will. But if you had a new product process and you built your product in Perfion, data from Perfion could go into AX if you wanted to. We don't do that today, but I think in the future roadmap we probably will. But it's very, very easy to communicate between the two.
Well, that's great. That's a good story. Tell us a little bit about, on the other end, what's the customer's expectation, or how have they responded post your implementation of Perfion? Has that affected customer satisfaction, throughput, any of those kinds of things?
Well, in my position as Senior Vice President CIO, I manage IT and customer care. And on the customer care side of things, the first thing I did was I built consumer care websites where my consumer care team, where consumers, I talk about customers and I talk about consumers. So our customers are the big box retailers that buy our stuff. But consumers are the individuals that go to the store, give their money to the store, and take our product home and try to use it. And my team serves both. So from a customer care perspective, they pay no attention to what we do. They just want the information, when they want it, and we're going to give it to them one way or another. Whether it takes us, 4 people working 3 days overnight to get information, or one guy downloading a form from Perfion, the customer doesn't care and the customer doesn't know. Perfion's allowed us to be much more efficient serving data to our customers. Their expectations are such that we're going to meet them one way or the other. It's just a matter of how much it costs us. For a consumer, it's very similar, right? A consumer goes to, they buy a padlock, they buy a door lock, they buy an ATV winch or a door closer, and they take it home and try to use it. And then they need support for whatever reason. They can go to our site, and our site serves up data from Perfion. So they can search for the item. One of the things I found early on that was very, very helpful was that once you take our item home and you throw the packaging away, you no longer have the item number. You just have a brand name. So our consumers come to our support site 24/7. They search by category and they look at pictures. And oh, there's my lock, or there's my door closer. That's the thing. And does it match what I have? Yep, that's it. And then they can find information like instructions or a video maybe. All this is in Perfion being served up to our website. And if they can't get what they need there, they open up a support ticket. And since they've identified the item by its picture, the support ticket comes through to my support team with the item number. And so we immediately have the information from the consumer, the item number they're dealing with, and many times we just serve them up. We have a lifetime warranty on everything that we sell, and so 7 out of 10 times the consumer just describes, hey, this part broke, or is missing this, or it just simply wore out, and we just send them a new one because we know what's there. And so efficiency-wise, my customer care team, I can do customer care on about 14 different brands I do it 5 people, 1 shift, 5 days a week. And we sell a lot of stuff. And so on our customer satisfaction rate is 9.98 for our consumer care team. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Perfion allows us to serve up information on our website, our support site, that people can find 24/7. One thing that's interesting is that our sales and marketing teams, they're all about the new stuff. They just want to run down the road selling new stuff, and they leave all of this legacy stuff behind for us to support, and with a lifetime warranty. And so we added some different flags in Perfion. We have a flag, of course, active or non-active or new, different statuses of items, but we have OK for web and OK for support. And so if an item has been active and OK for web, then it can be used on a marketing site. If it is OK for support, I don't care what other flags are set, it will show up on my support site. Even though we're not selling it, it's not a go forward item. It may be 20 years old, but we still have to support it. And so I'm still able to serve that up at any of my .care sites so that consumers can find it and get help.
I'm so glad you mentioned the benefit of search in there. So appreciate that, Brian. Hey, I missed a follow-up question while I was talking, and so we had a follow-up question about dynamics, and that is there anything particular about Perfion's architecture or APIs that make it a real standout with Dynamics AX or D365?
Well, I can tell you that I don't have experience in the last 20 years with well, that's true, a whole lot true. We implemented AX 2009 in 2008. So in the past 12 years, I don't have experience with another ERP, but I'm confident based on what my my high-powered, super smart developers say, is that Perfion's API is one of the easiest things that they have come across to use and support. And even old AX 2009 can do pretty much what we wanted to do, and then we'll be able to do so much more with D3FO because D3FO will be easier to deal with. I don't think I don't think there's much I would change, or I haven't heard any complaints from my support team about the Perfion API. It just every time I ask them to do something, they go, "Oh, that'll be easy," and they do it. And if they get stuck, they ask for help, and they usually have an answer within the day, and it's usually a very simple thing that that they need to fix. So I've never ever had an issue making Perfion talk to anything.
That's fabulous. We'll probably include this with a little follow up from Dick as well during his section. So, all right. So back to a couple of other questions that just came in, and so let me ask those. And that is, on your customer care site, you mentioned that you carry information going back quite a ways. Was there a challenge in getting that information, and how did you handle getting that information into your care site if it was real legacy?
Oh yeah, sure. And just like Tom's description, we have people that have been with Hampton for years and years and years, and information lives in their heads. I mean, I have one of my consumer care managers. She came from a company that we purchased, I think in 2006, and her parents both worked in the factory, and she grew up with them working in the factory of Right Products in Wisconsin. And Right Products is one of the older brands, U.S. based, made in USA, storm and screen door hardware. And they're just in the middle of America, Wisconsin, and we bought them. They had been traded off and offshored about 5 or 6 times by the time we got to them, and that was a brand that we brought in, and I've had to dedicate Denise to writing a lot of the specs that live now, somewhere in China, because they were here, it was manufactured here, and then it went there. So it's definitely a challenge. You have to identify the things that are important to you, and that's things I would probably do differently from the very, very beginning. We started this thing with the whole how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time concept, and then we tried to bite off the whole elephant. Rather than just identify, one brand or a handful of SKUs and just make those sing, I think that's probably what I would do differently today. But we tried to do it all at once. We got very excited about all the potential, and we started listing out all of the different pieces of information we had to have on each item, and then there was different for each category. You can imagine that the door hardware is different than towing, is different than bungee cords, right? And so we just got really hung up on trying to do everything all at once. And I think that if we had done it more slowly, I think people would have seen the value earlier. They see it today, but I think that more people would have seen it earlier, and we may have had faster adoption than the way we did it. But you're right. I mean, you have to hold on to those people and get that information in. Once it's in Perfion, then you're gold, right? But you got to get stuff out of people's heads and spreadsheets and legacy documents, and man, it can be a challenge for sure.
I've got a question of my own, Brian, and that is, when you started by saying that you know, you support all the big box retailers and you like to sell crates and pallets. So talk to me about the difference in complexity and what has stopped you from, you know, full on going a direct to consumer. You alluded to you've
Yeah,
got some
sure.
other
Sure.
websites, but what's the challenge there? What's keeping you from doing that? Just talk a little bit about that, if
Yeah,
you would.
sure. Well, you know, we have a culture, especially in our distribution center in operations. We have a culture of efficiency, and that's what serves us well. Um, our operations manager knows to the penny what it costs to move a case through our distribution center. And so knowing that is the only way that you can improve that. And so he knows exactly what it costs to take a pallet out of a container, put it away, break it down, pick cases, put them on a cart or a forklift or a conveyor and run them down the line. He knows exactly the difference between the automation system and hand picking. And he does a really great job of making sure that I get a paycheck every 2 weeks, and I appreciate him. When you ask him to break the case into eaches and to create a bin location for eaches and then pick eaches and put eaches in their own cases and tape those shut and put a label on each one and ship it by parcel out the door to a consumer, oh man, the cost is huge. And of course, the margin's better too. But then we don't have the volume going to our e-commerce websites to support a huge volume of that kind of work. And so, you know, it's a chicken and egg, right? At some point, you've got to get there, and we do have an each pick section in our warehouse, and we do support that for many of our consumers and ourselves. But you look at the big payout for us is still shipping cases and pallets. And so we're dedicated to the whole concept of doing our own e-commerce. We also are up against the fact that many of or most all of our actual customers don't necessarily want us to compete with them. You can't put the same item up on our own e-commerce site, and so it becomes a challenge because our culture is based on that whole concept of scraping pennies off of cases. And we'd be better if we could make $1 off of an each. And I think that someday we'll get there. But we have a culture that doesn't quite support that yet, and we haven't gotten there. It requires a whole different level of product detail too, as you guys have all alluded, right? We're getting better with the marketing descriptions, with the in-use stuff, but man, it's turning this ship takes a long time.
That's a great point, and I appreciate it. You've really highlighted some of the differences between the case in each situation. That's really great.